Greetings, patients. This is Dr. Chad Rolland coming to you in May of 2020, and I wanted to make another video about food. It's been said food is the best medicine. So if we look and say what to eat or what not to eat, this is the first of two videos to talk about that topic. We could discuss it for many hours, and as you know, there's video after video on the internet about this topic. There's numerous books, numerous videos, so I'm going to be brief, but I'm going to attempt to take a look at some of the big things we should consider, and then in the next video we'll talk about intermittent fasting and some specifics about different foods. Also look at my website, Rolland, R-O-L-L-A-N-D, health.com, rollandhealth.com. I'll put a link in there, a PDF with the actual handout that I give to patients that goes in great detail. I'll review some of that on my second video. So first of all, we're talking about eating healthy. As you know, we get a lot of things from our food. What do? We get phytonutrients, we get energy, we get fiber, we get protein, we get carbohydrates, and healthy fats. These are all the building blocks of our body and help to keep our digestive system working properly. They also help with anti-inflammatory issues and to promote healing. One of the principles about eating healthy is start small. Put the good in first, and then the bad things will become less and less. If you focus on, oh, I've got to get all these things out, I've got to stop doing that, I've got to take this out, then what happens is we get overwhelmed by that task and discouraged. Instead, start small and do one thing at a time. I had some students that came to me one time and they said, here's an idea that we came up with. Each week they would go to the grocery store, they would pick one vegetable or fruit that they had never had before, go home and figure out on the internet, through books, different ways to cook and prepare this food. And I think they said after they tried 3 different ways of the particular week, then they made a decision, is this something that we like, we're going to continue and add it to our diet, or is this something that we really don't like and we're going to move on to something else? We're truly blessed in the United States to have just so many different types of foods that are readily available at our grocery store year-round. Now there is some benefit, that's a principle, to trying to eat local foods and trying to eat seasonal foods. It seems our body adapts better to that, and there's some health benefits, but we're blessed to be able to have many different types of foods all during the year. Now the next thing that we're going to look at is talking about nutrition from plants. So plant-based nutrition is some of the best. And when I look at especially vegetables and especially raw ones, fruits of course are beneficial, but as you know they have a higher sugar content. Natural sugar, yes, but still a higher sugar content. Some of the other things that we're thinking about right now, an immune benefit, is trying to include garlic and onions, mushrooms, ginger, apples, raw honey, greens like kale, broccoli, parsley. These all help with powered immune system. Of course, lemon and citrus are good, as is peppermint that you might have in a tea. These all help with digestion. They all help with the immune system. People say to me, hey doc, what do you eat? Because we'll get into this discussion on a regular basis. And to tell you what I eat, I'm a vegetarian. And so I eat a mostly vegan diet because that I feel it's a healthier choice overall. So daily, I try to eat myself some raw garlic, some turmeric, some ginger, broccoli or kale or parsley or cilantro, some type of green like that. Apples, I try to eat citrus. I try to eat raw nuts, typically for myself, almonds or walnuts because of the really beneficial fats and protein in there. I also eat organic soy products, which I know is controversial. We can talk about it in detail if you want, but there seems to be some benefit and some proof through the China study that organic, non-GMO soy can be cancer protective in many cases. And I can discuss that at length. I know it's a controversial subject, but I can share the proof with that from my perspective. So as I said, I follow a vegetarian diet, and I do that primarily for health reasons, although there's certainly humanitarian benefits as well. I'm going to share with you on my website in this section a link by a Dr. Neil Barnard. He's with the Physicians Council for Responsible Medicine, and he has a healthy eating link called Pantry Staples, Healthy Foods to Stock and Cook at Home. It's about 12-minute YouTube video where he goes through a handful of different things that you might not have thought about that are readily available, especially when meat supplies are low in the grocery stores and then you can cook at home and get a lot of benefit out of. So I encourage you to consider their particular material. Also, let's talk about your gut. When we think about your gut, these days many people have such dysfunctional gut, not only because of celiac and gluten intolerance, but just poor eating habits, poor diet, so many toxins that we put in our system, medications like antibiotics, and the damage that they do both to toxify the system and to the gut flora, and also a lack of restoring healthy gut flora. If we look at that and say your gut needs healthy flora to be able to digest and absorb the foods that you put through it, they are also part of your immune system, and that lining in your gut, you've heard of leaky gut, that's where it starts to break down, and we start to get materials coming through it, and that's a problem. So your gut makes up a large part of your immune system, and it ties in a lot to your nervous system. So keep that in mind when we're talking about your brain health. You'll see, we'll talk about that in another video, and about your immune system, how important it is to keep your gut healthy with eating plant fiber. In case you didn't know, there is no fiber in meat, so you need that plant-based fiber. It reduces colorectal cancer, it reduces other types of cancers, it pulls the toxins out of your body that your liver has detoxified and has put in to your gut to eliminate. You also need prebiotics, which are other things to nourish that gut flora, and of course the flora itself, the probiotics. What should we, well, before we get into what should we avoid, I'm going to show you something in this book. Here's a little book called The Full Plate Diet. And this is something that they do, which is kind of handy if you're trying to look through something, is to say, hey, what are some top 5 fruits I should eat? What are some top 5 vegetables I should eat? And I understand I'm going too fast for you to read them all, but my point is you can find this material online. What would be top 5 nuts to eat? And they go into detail about the nutritional content and the benefits. Here's top 5 nuts and seeds. The other one I think was beans. And then lastly, what about top 5 grains to eat? So as you look at that, there's some books that'll give you quick references and tips like that. Let's talk about sugar. So when we talk about sugar and refined foods and unhealthy drinks from soda or energy drinks, the energy drinks are even worse. Not only do they have sugar in them, but they have a lot of chemicals, they have caffeine, and they have a lot of other things which are not healthy for your body. Especially when young people are taking them at a high school or college level, when you're still developing and you're putting a lot of demands on your body, it allows you to do things mentally, physically, that are stressing your body in a harmful way, and it creates short and long-term hazards. Sweets directly weaken your immune system as well by up to 50% for several hours. Because, and here's the issue, one of the mechanisms, the sugar goes into your body, it goes to the receptor sites on the white blood cells, and that interferes with your body's ability to attach to vitamin C, which allows your white blood cells to engulf and digest bad bugs, bad microbes invading your body better. So we eat a lot of sugar, and a study found that using just 2 cans of typical soda, that amount of sugar, which you don't realize, there's probably 8 to 12 teaspoons in 1 can of sugar, 1 can of soda. That sugar is enough. And what about desserts with donuts or other types of readily available or refined foods? We're going to talk about that in a minute. It started in as early as 30 minutes weakening the immune system, and it lasted up to 5 hours. That's a huge issue here when we're talking about immune strength in 2020 with the pandemic that's going on. Now, what about cancer? This also has a big impact on cancer. I've talked to patients who have come in, said I'm working with my doctor, they think I have cancer, and I say to them, what have they recommend for you to change your diet? And if they say nothing, we'll ask them the question, do you think that's a good idea? And the patient usually says no. Why is that? Because if the diet you're currently on has allowed you to get cancer, and your body does not have the nutrients and the ability to deal with that properly and help you stay healthy, do you think that when you do have it and you're diagnosed with it, which takes time usually, now there are a few reasons that are non-diet related cancer for sure, but a majority would benefit from a better diet. And if your doctor does not tell you there's things that you need to do, and we'll talk about that more on our cancer video, but then the patients themselves are saying, that doesn't sound right, I think I need to do something. Now, sugar also affects behavior, attention, and learning. Dr. Sears, you know the pediatrician group, Dr. Sears, and they have several books out and a very nice website. It talks a lot about the sugar hazards for young children and how it affects their learning. Also, adrenaline levels in children remain 10 times higher than normal for up to 5 hours in children after a test dose of sugar. Sugar also decreases learning performance and promotes cravings for more. Have we heard of attention deficit? Have we heard of behavior problems? Have we heard of learning problems? How much sugar does the average American family? Many don't know about this, but a lot of people do. And are we addressing it? Not in a very significant way. How much sugar do our children get before, during, and after school? And how does it affect their learning, behavior, and development? Now, what about refined? You say, well, I don't eat a lot of sugar. Well, what about refined foods? You need to know this as well. And that is that refined, high glycemic foods like white bread, white pasta, white rice, white corn that's processed. Did you hear the word white over and over again? If you want to keep it in mind, think of white. A lot of white foods, if they're processed, they have taken out the fiber, in most cases, most of the nutrients, and then the healthy fats. That's why they last forever. That's why they taste delicious, but they digest quickly. They go right into your bloodstream like sugar. What does that do? That not only causes those behavior issues, those learning issues, that immune issue, but it also taxes your pancreas because it leads to insulin resistance, diabetes, and heart disease. These problems contribute are a lot of the American dream, American health problems. Also, midline weight gain. Do you know anybody that's struggling with obesity and midline weight gain? Look at these types of foods and what they're doing to your body and how they are affecting you. Also, people say, well, I'm just going to go with an artificial sweetener. Artificial sweetener, bad news. Why? Because many artificial sweeteners contribute to neurological disorders, dysfunction within the body as far as digestion, thinking that it's sugar, and also some of them even contribute to cancer. It's proven and documented. So avoid artificial sweeteners. Stick with limited quantities of healthy sweeteners like whole maple syrup. Not off the shelf, just, hey, this looks like maple syrup, but actual real maple syrup. Natural, real honey, especially raw honey that's unprocessed. You can look for other types of natural sweeteners. There are some like stevia, there are some like monk fruit, and you can find benefits from them as you're using them in your diet in limited quantities. Let's talk about fats. Avoid fast foods, and a lot of dairy products. Why do I say that? People know intuitively, oh, if I go to the fair, I go to the restaurant and I eat fried foods, that excess fat is not healthy for me. Cooking the fat at high temperatures damages it, oxidizes it, and causes harm to myself. When I put those fats in my body, some of the worst types of fats would be animal fats, would be other types of processed fats, and especially your trans or your partially hydrogenated man-made fats. They go into the cells, they clog them up, they make your blood thicker. It's been documented that shortly after eating those types of foods, your blood is actually thicker. Bad fats also affect and interfere with the phospholipid bilayer on the outer part of the cell. There's a lot of interchange between nutrients and other things going in and out of the cells that the body releases. They're not just like a solid ball, like a soccer ball. They're porous and things go in and out of them. And if it has a bad layer of fats on the outside, then what happens is that the transfer of nutrition and waste cannot happen as efficiently. And it causes a lot of dysfunction and it interferes with normal metabolic functions. Now, what about dairy products? Dairy products also are processed today with homogenation and pasteurization that causes damage to the original dairy products. Having that dairy whipped so fast with homogenation causes it to be harmful to our digestion, and the body just doesn't know what to do with those tiny little molecules of fat that have been whipped to stay in the dairy products. Also, the dairy is taken out and you get it, it's sort of like liquid meat. Dairy also has been shown to promote congestion. And what happens is we dry dairy and we powder it. So what does that do? It causes oxidation. And oxidized dairy is a big contributor to a stress on our body. Where do we find those the most? Well, we'll find them in mixes like pancake mix, or in smoothie or creamies where we got, or ice cream, we've got whipped dairy. You think of it, pancake mixes, did I say that already? Other types of cakes or pastries, or where there's some kind of a dairy product that has been put into it, but it's powdered. What happens when it's whipped and powdered like that? It's exposed to oxygen, which causes oxidation. That goes in your body, and then you have to detoxify it when you take that. So powdered and processed dairy creates a lot of problems. If I was going to eat dairy, then do it like the cow does. Get it straight from the cow or straight from the goat so that you can have that. Do I eat some? Yes, I eat some limited amounts of dairy. But I feel by and large it is not a healthy food, and we can talk about that. I know there's some controversy here thanks to the American Dairy Council, but we want to look and say this contributes to some problems in our bodies. What's next? Avoiding all types of tobacco products, including other types of smokable or vapable or other products. Also all types of alcohol beverages and any kinds of unnecessary drugs. You decide what's unnecessary, but in many cases that includes most over-the-counters and perhaps some prescription medications. I didn't tell you to stop taking those. Talk to your medical doctor and say, Doc, do I really need to take this? When can I get off it? What's an alternative? Because most of the time, they don't say you just need to take this for this period of time. Here's how you get off it, and then you can move on with your life. My mother uses a lot of medications. She's always saying to me, Doctor, she doesn't call me doctor, she calls me Chad, and she says, hey, here's something for your allergies. Hey, here's something for your stomach. Hey, here's something for your headache. And I'm trying to say, Mom, I'm working with my body so that it can take care of itself healthily and on its own. This is something that I'm trying to share with her as well. But not everybody's into that, and not everybody wants to. They want the next pill or potion that's going to make them better. Tobacco reduces oxygen in your body. It constricts your blood vessels, and it stresses your body with many toxins. Smokers are particularly vulnerable to respiratory problems and have poor circulation and oxygen exchange. They also, when they come into my office, what do they come in for? Aches and pains in their muscles and joints. Tobacco contributes to pains and aches throughout your body because of the toxins and the lack of oxygen. You're going to heal less and you're going to have more problems. Alcohol digests like sugar. We talked about sugar extensively already. It also is a toxin to the system. It puts a heavy load not only on the cells that are going down the digestive tract, which is designed to protect your body, we're directly exposing them to toxin, but it also puts a heavy load on the liver, which is our primary body detoxifier that is helping to get a lot of these digested and problem substances out of our body. So when I put all that burden on my body, now I'm creating a lot of issues. So keep that in mind, as do pharmaceutical medications, and many of them cause side effects and other symptoms that your body has to process and deal with in order to get healthy. So just think about that and be careful when you're thinking about going on to a medication, whether over-the-counter or prescription. All of them put a stress on your body. Now in closing here real quick, I'm going to share with you just a couple of videos that you might want to consider on your own to look at. And here we go. First of all, one of the early ones that came out a few decades ago, Food Incorporated, talking about some of the problems that we have with our food system and how it can be reduced. Now I understand that not all of these are from a plant-based diet, but here's another one, Food Matters. This was another series that came out that I do recommend. You can probably find it on the internet. It's got a really good message, and there's a lot like that. Here's another one, Hungry for Change, talking about trying to eat healthy, trying to eat plant-based, and trying to put that into your diet. Now, you don't have to be 100% vegetarian like I am, and you look and say, hey, that's your regular diet, is eating mostly vegetables and grains and nuts. That's true. That might be the original diet that was recommended back in Genesis, and perhaps there's a lot of reason for that. But there's other ways that you can add just a few vegetables or a lot into your diet. I talked to you about this in the Blue Zones book that we had before, The Vegetarian Advantage. This talks about some of the benefits for health, reducing cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, perhaps dementia, Alzheimer's. I think there's a link there. Increasing health and longevity. Think about that. This is by Dr. Don Hall. Interesting DVD series. Another one here. How am I going to get some of these healthy fruits and vegetables? If you don't live in the country, then maybe you can grow them in containers or some type of plant-based. But growing your own vegetables or going to a farmer nearby who does. I mentioned to you a book about the China study. Dr. T. Colin Campbell, still alive. He's 86 now. He just saw a recent video about him. And then his cohort on this was a cardiologist for Dr. Bill Clinton, not during the test, but later on, Esselstyn, and they came out with some interesting benefits for reducing heart disease. And they're encouraging a vegan diet. So I want you to look at that and see some of the big benefits that was coming out of China. Now in 2020, it's ironic to be talking about benefits from China, but there's definitely a lot we can learn from the Chinese people. Here's the video series that came after that, Forks Over Knives. And what do they mean by forks over knives? Well, would you rather have some type of medical procedure, or would you rather take care of yourself and how you're eating your diet and the food that you're getting? So there's another one. Then his son came out with this series, Engine 2 Rescue, Kitchen Rescue, sorry. It's a very interesting overview for somebody who's not quite sure what to do. If you look at this DVD, what they did is they went into 3 or 4 different homes and they said, what's in your house? They looked at the bad things that were there. They brought in a bunch of good things. They took out the bad things. So it just helps you. They also went through menus and they did some cooking and they said, hey, let's test it on the teens and see how they like it. And just to see how you can do healthy cooking and what you can benefit from. If you're not familiar with it, there's just numerous resources. This would be the cookbook that goes with it. In the guidebook, there's definitely some interesting things there. And there's just numerous websites, videos that have this type of a message. Superfoods, okay? What can I eat? What should I not eat? There's so many healthy benefits from plant-based foods. And like I said at the beginning, find some that you like, try them, cook them different ways. If you say, I just don't care for this, do it a different way, because a lot of times it's not the vegetable itself, but it's how it was prepared. So I want you to think about those things. Now, as you know, I'm not your doctor. Unless you contact me and you want to work together for better health, and I can help you with nutrition, counseling, and testing, and some other things like that. This information is reliable and accurate to the best of my knowledge. It's for educational purposes. If you have questions, contact your medical doctor and discuss it with them. If you're interested in our programs, you can contact us through our office. But until next time, this is Dr. Chad Rolland. I'm wishing you the best of health and happiness.